Hi, I'm Anita. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be learning how to make a pair of stained glass earrings. Here's an example of one pair I made in black. The color palette we're going to be using today will be slightly different. We're going to be making them in a lilac color with pink Bicone crystals. And here's a list of the materials you'll be needing for today's project. Also, you'll be needing a size 10 beading needle and a sharp pair of scissors. Okay, so let me clear my area and we'll get started. Here's an example of what you're going to be making today. Like I mentioned, you'll also be needing a pair of scissors. The pair we're making today will be made with a lilac color of SuperDuos, Galvanized Silver, 15-0s. We have a crystal with an AB finish on the QuadraTile beads and 3mm Bicone crystals in a rose color. So gather your materials and let's get started. You're going to start by stringing your needle with about 1 yard of 6-pound fireline, like that. We're going to be picking up 4 tile beads and 4 15-0 seed beads, and this is the sequence of your pattern. You're going to be picking up a tile bead in the far upper left corner, like this. So when you're picking up the tile beads, you want to make sure that you're picking them all up exactly the same. So we're picking up the first tile bead, going through that upper left corner, picking up a 15-0, another tile bead the exact same way, a 15-0, tile bead, a 15-0, and a tile bead, and one more 15-0. So you should have 4 each of your beads, 4 tile beads and 4 15-0s in that order, like that. So bring your needle back to the bottom and go through all of the beads in that direction. So with your needle, you're going up through the tile bead, the 15-0, the tile bead, the 15-0, tile bead, 15-0, all the way through to that last 15-0, like that. That's what you should have. Now pull your needle all the way to bring your beads together, and it's going to look a little bit like this. So what we're going to do now is we want to bring those together, so kind of pull your thread, both ends, like that. We're going to do a surgeon's knot here. So take your tail thread, go over your working thread, and you're going to come through the loop twice. There's once, and then bring it through again. That's twice, and pull your thread, like that. Now we'll do one more overhand knot, so just bring your tail again, pass that through the loop once, and tie. And this is what you should have. So you've got your 4 15-0s on one end, your tile beads are all together, and this side it's blank. There's nothing there yet. So now we're going to cut this tail off so that it's not in the way. So take your scissors, clip that thread, and just set that aside, like that. Then we'll go on to the next step. For our next step, we're going to hold our piece like this with the seed beads facing up, and you'll see the thread coming out where the knot is that we just tied. So what you need to do here is take your needle and go back through the hole of the tile bead right next to that seed bead, like that. Pull your thread through and just hold the work together with your fingers like that. So now your thread's coming out of the other side of the tile bead. Now we're going to advance the needle to the hole directly across on the inside, right there. Bring your needle through. Now we're going to pick up a 15-0 and we're going to put our needle through the tile bead directly across here on the inside where that empty hole is, like that. Pull your needle through. We'll do that again. Pick up another 15-0, exiting the inside hole of that tile bead, going into this next tile bead, like that. Pull your thread. Like that. So do that 2 more times, and then I'll meet you back. Okay, I'm doing my last 15-0 here, coming out of that tile, going into the next tile bead. So there you should have seed beads all the way around, 2 seed beads on each side, like that. So now you're going to take your thread, coming out of that inside hole of that tile bead, you're going to advance your needle to the empty hole on this side right here, like that. Pull your thread through. And now we're going on to the next step. I'm going to flip my work around like this, so that this is my top side where my thread is on that top hole. For the next step, we're going to start adding the SuperDuos. Now, I want to mention, when you're working with any kind of multi-hole beads, you want to check all of your beads before you start your project. Do a quality check. And the reason is sometimes there might be a clogged hole on one of these multi-hole beads, or any beads for that matter. Here's an example I want to show you, and this is one that I came across. I thought I'd save it for this tutorial. As you can notice, this hole is clear, but this hole is clogged up and you can't use it. So it would be very disappointing to be halfway through your project and have to rip everything out because you have one clogged bead. So make that a habit to always check and make sure that all of your beads are not having issues. Okay, so now we're going on to our next step. We're going to pick up 3 SuperDuos, and it doesn't matter which hole you go in on these. We're exiting this tile bead here on that outside hole, and we're going into the hole directly across on the next tile bead, like that. Pull your thread. And it's going to position them like that. Rotate your work. Pick up 3 more SuperDuos. And now you're going to exit here, going into the next tile bead directly across, like that. Pull your thread. And just hold it with your fingers the best you can. So you're going to do that 2 more times. Pick up 3 SuperDuos, exiting that hole, going into the next hole, and then do that twice and I'll meet you back. Okay, I'm coming out of my last tile bead. I've got 3 SuperDuos on my thread, going in through that last tile bead, and pull. So this is what you should have so far. So now coming out of this tile bead, you're going to go back through these next 3 SuperDuos in the used hole where your thread has already been through once. So take your needle and go through. If you can't get through all 3 of them at the same time, just do one at a time, or however many you can get your needle through. Pull your thread like that. And that's what you should have so far. Okay, let's flip this back over. This is your bottom side. We're going to flip this back over like this. So your empty holes are on top. This is your top side. So now with your thread coming out of that bottom hole of that SuperDuo, we're going to reverse direction and go in through the top hole of that same SuperDuo like that. And pull your thread. Now we're going to form a picot in between these 2 SuperDuos here and these 2. So here's how we do that. You're going to pick up 4 15-ohs, bring those down to your work, and just kind of hold it with your finger as best as you can. You're going to take your needle and go back through the first 15-oh like this, in this direction, and then through the top hole of that next SuperDuo like that. Pull your thread, try not to get it tangled. When you pull that together, it's going to form a picot in between those 2 beads like that. It'll be kind of loose at first, but we're going to reinforce that later. So we're going to do the same thing again between these 2. Pick up 4 15-ohs, bring that down to your work, just kind of hold that with your fingers. Bring your needle through that first 15-oh going in this direction, and then through the top hole of that SuperDuo like that. Pull your thread, and there's your other picot. So now we're going to pick up 2 SuperDuos here to fill this gap. So pick up 2 SuperDuos exiting this top hole. You're going directly across to the next SuperDuo like that. Okay, so now that you're coming out of this group of 3 here, you're coming out of the top hole of that SuperDuo. We're going to repeat what we did right here 2 times. You're putting a picot between this area here and this area here. So you're picking up 4 15-ohs, bringing that down to your work, hold that as best you can, take your needle and go back through the first 15-oh like that, and then through the top hole of the SuperDuo. Let's try that again. There we go. So the needle's going through the 15-oh and the SuperDuo like that. It's a little awkward at first, but after you've done these a few times, it'll get easier. So there's that other picot. So do another picot there, and I'll meet you back. I'm back, and we just completed these 2 picots with the 15-ohs between this group of 3 here. Now we're back to this side, and we have that gap right here. And here we're going to put a crystal. So we're going to pick up a 3mm crystal, and then we're going to pick up 5 15-0s, like that. So bring that down to your work, and holding your work like this, take your needle and go back through the crystal on this side, and then through the empty hole of the next SuperDuo, like that. Pull your thread, and that's going to position these 15-0s around that crystal like that and give it a nice little decoration. Okay, so now we're in the next segment of the next 3 SuperDuos. We're going to repeat what we did here, adding 2 picots. So go ahead and do that here and here, and I'll meet you back. Okay, we're coming down to that second set, picking up 4 15-0s, bringing that down to your work, going through that first 15-0, then through the top hole of that next SuperDuo, like that. Pull your thread. So now we're going to repeat what we did directly across. We're going to pick up 2 SuperDuos here, like that, exiting this hole, going into this empty hole directly across, pull your thread, now we have to do 2 more picots here and here, like we did over here. So I'll do one with you, and then you can do the other one on your own. Pick up 4 15-0s, like that, bring that down, take your needle through the first 15-0, like that, and then through the top hole of that next SuperDuo empty hole. Pull your thread. Okay, do that one more time, and I'll meet you back. We just completed our second picot. Now we've got one more gap left to fill, and as you can guess, we're going to do exactly what we did on this side. So you're picking up a 3mm Bicone crystal and 5 15-0s. Bring that down. Now you're going to take your needle, go back through the crystal in this direction, just the crystal, and then through the top hole of that SuperDuo, like that. And pull your thread. And that's what you should have so far. Okay, for our next step, coming out of this SuperDuo here, we just completed adding the crystal, our last crystal. Now what we need to do is we need to retrace or reinforce these 2 picots. So I'll show you how to do the first one. With your thread coming out of that SuperDuo, you're going to put your needle in through the bottom 15-0 on that picot, like that. Bring your thread through. You're just following your thread path. So we're going counterclockwise. So after you go through this bottom 15-0, we're going to bring our needle up through these next 2 15-0s, like that. Pull your thread and just kind of pinch your work so it doesn't come loose. Now we need to come down the left side of that 15-0 picot right there. Pull your thread. And then back through that bottom 15-0, like that, and through the SuperDuo. So you're going through the bottom picot again, and then you're advancing your needle through the top hole of that SuperDuo like that. So pull your thread. And that is how you retrace or reinforce a picot. So you're going to do that again on this one. So I'll do that with you one more time. Coming out of the SuperDuo, going in through that bottom 15-0 first. Pull your thread. Just make sure your thread doesn't get tangled. Now you're going to advance through these next two 15-0s like that. Pinch your work and pull your thread. Then through this side 15-0. Again, pull your thread. And now through the bottom 15-0 and through the SuperDuo like that. Pull your thread. So now we're at where these two SuperDuos are sticking out here. We're going to pick up a 15-0, just one, and you're coming out of that SuperDuo here. You're going to bring your needle through the top hole of that empty hole of that SuperDuo that's sticking out like that. Now you're going to pick up a 3mm crystal. Coming out of this hole, a SuperDuo, you're going to go and empty the empty hole directly across like that. Pull your thread. And now we're going to pick up another 15-0, exiting this SuperDuo up here. You're going to bring your needle through the top hole of this next SuperDuo right here, and it's kind of recessed a little, so that's where you need to be. Pull your thread. So now we're going to reinforce these next two picots like we did here and here by retracing your thread. So you're going through the bottom 15-0, up through these next two, through the left one, through the bottom one, back to the SuperDuo, and you're going to repeat that. So do those two reinforcements, and then I'll meet you back. I'm back. We just finished reinforcing these two picots here, and you're coming out of this top hole SuperDuo. So now what we're going to do is bring your needle through these next two 15-0s like that. Pull your thread. Now you're going to skip the next 15-0 and bring your needle through the next two 15-0s and the top hole of that SuperDuo like that. And the reason we're skipping that bead is because it's going to make that form a little point like that. See how that sticks out? That's what you want. So now we're going to reinforce the next two picots as we did up here and up here. So go ahead and do the reinforcing on these two picots, and I'll meet you back. All right, we just finished reinforcing that next two picots with your thread coming out of that SuperDuo there. You're going to pick up a 15-0, go through the empty hole of that SuperDuo that's sticking out like that. Pull your thread. So we're doing what we did on this side basically. We're going to add another crystal. So pick up a 3mm Bicone here, exiting that SuperDuo, going into the next one. Pick up another 15-0, exiting the top hole of that SuperDuo. You're going into the top hole of the next SuperDuo that's recessed, right like that. Pull your thread. So as you can guess, we have two more picots here that we need to reinforce like we did. So go ahead and reinforce the next two picots, and I will meet you back. Okay, we're back, and I'm going through that last reinforcement of that last picot there. with my thread, trying to get tangled. Just make sure that doesn't happen. So I'm exiting that SuperDuo, that last reinforcement we did, and we're going through the next two 15-0s right here. Like that. Pull your thread, skip the next 15-0 and go down through the next two 15-0s and the top hole of that SuperDuo like that, and pull. And that will create the point for this little decoration that's over that crystal, so they are both matching like that. So that's what we have so far. For our next step, we are going to be traveling or following the thread path. We want our thread to be coming out of this bottom crystal here on the left side. So with your thread coming out of this top hole of your SuperDuo, I'm going to advance my needle to the bottom hole of the next SuperDuo like that. You want to try to move your thread in a least conspicuous way so that there's no thread showing. So now coming out of the bottom hole of that middle SuperDuo, I'm going to go through the top hole of the next SuperDuo like that. Pull your thread. Now we're coming out of this top hole. I'm going to go through the 15-0, the SuperDuo, and the crystal like that, and pull. So that's where we should be. This is the top, the bottom, and we're going to be adding an embellishment here next. For the embellishment part, we're going to be picking up 4 15-0s, a Bicone crystal, and then 3 15-0s. This is what you should have on your needle. So bring that down. So now you're going to take your needle and go back up through the crystal. You're skipping these 3 15-0s here. So go back up through the crystal and that first 15-0 right there, like that. Pull your thread. So what that does is that's going to put a little picot at the end of this crystal, and this is your little dangle at the bottom of the earring. So just make sure you don't have any gaps. If you do, just kind of pull on the picot and then pull your thread again, and that should draw it up. So this is what you should have. So now you're going to pick up 3 more 15-0s. You're exiting this 15-0 here. You're going through the other side of the crystal like this. Just like that. Pull your thread. And that's what you should have. So now we need to reinforce that one more time. So you're going to go back through all the beads. Thread coming out here. I'm going in through the 15-0s and the crystal like that. I'm going through the little picot, so just do that 1 bead at a time. Here you can go through those beads and the crystal and the 15-0 in the center there. Pull your thread. And then we're going back through these 3 15-0s here, like that, and then back through the crystal right here. So that's what you should have so far. So that's been reinforced, and we'll go on to the next step. For our next step, we're going to be adding our earring clasp, I'm using a lever back here. You can use hooks if that's your preference. You just want to make sure that your finding is sealed and you don't have any gaps where the thread can come loose. And the way I do that is I'll take my flat nose pliers and just make sure everything is snug, there are no gaps, so that's ready to go. So where we left off is we reinforced our little decoration here at the bottom. We need to advance our needle through all the way this side to get to the top out of this crystal up here. So to do that, we're exiting the crystal. I'm going to go through the SuperDuo and the 15-0 like that. Now I'm going to go through the bottom 2 holes. I'm going through the bottom holes of these next 2 SuperDuos like that. Pull your thread. And don't pull too tight, you just want to advance your thread so it's not visible. So now I'm going through from the bottom hole to the top hole of this next SuperDuo and through the crystal and the next SuperDuo like that. Pull your thread. Just choose whatever path works best for you. There's no right or wrong way. Now we're going to advance our needle from here into the bottom hole of this SuperDuo like that. Now I'm coming out of this bottom hole, going in through the top hole of the next SuperDuo. Now I'm going through the 15-0 SuperDuo and the crystal, and that's where we need to be, like that. Pull your thread. And we're at the top now. So now we're ready for the next step. All right, for our earring finding, which is the final step here, we're going to pick up 8 15-0s, your earring finding, and because you want to make sure your earring finding is facing the correct direction, so with your thread coming out of the right side of your crystal, you're picking up 8 15-0s, and you want to face it this way. I know it looks backwards, but when you do the other side of this loop, it's going to flip this around like this when it's done. So when you put it on, you want to put it on with the back of the lever facing you from right to left, like this. So you've got your 8 15-0s there, and then we're going to add 4 more 15-0s. So pick up 4. Pull that down. Now you're going to go back through the 4th bead from where the crystal is. So you're counting 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going this direction like that. Pull your work. And you want that to come close. So if you need to tighten your thread like this, just kind of pinch it and then pull, and that'll bring that together like that. And if you can, you want to try to get those beads situated on the clasp so that it's not on the thread. It's kind of awkward, but just tug on it a little like that. So now we're going to pick up 3 more 15-0s like this, and with our thread coming out of that 15-0, we're going to go into the opposite side of the crystal like this and pull. And that's going to turn your earring finding around the right side up. So this is where you're at right now. So that's why you put it on. It looks like you're putting it on backwards, but when you complete this second step, it's going to flip it around and then it'll be facing the correct direction. If you don't do that and you put it on the wrong way, You're going to have to take it apart and do it over again. Believe me, I learned that lesson yesterday. So now that we've done that, we have to reinforce this. So with your thread coming out of the crystal, you're just going to go back through all of the beads like that. Just follow the thread path and try to keep this tight. So pull your needle through. So you're making, the thread path is like an 8, so you're going back through the beads like this. Just a few at a time. And now we're going through the 15-0, the earring finding, and that next 15-0 on the other side. Like that. Then back through the 15-0 all the way through. If you can get through that middle one, go ahead and do that and pull your thread. And then back down these last 3 15-0s like that. Pull your thread and through the crystal. So that's what you should have so far. Get down to the wire here. So we just reinforced our earring finding. We're coming out of this crystal here. We're going to go down through this SuperDuo right here. That top hole, pull your thread. Now we're going down through the bottom hole of that SuperDuo. Pull your thread. Now you're going to take your thread from that bottom hole SuperDuo into the bottom hole of the tile, and it's way down in there, so you have to go at an angle like that. So you're putting your needle in through that hole that is on the inside of the work, like that. Pull your thread. So here's where your thread is coming out of. You're down here. We need to bring that thread up to this empty hole on the top of the surface. So coming out from here, you bring your needle into that empty hole right there. Pull your thread. And that has us set up for the final step. So make sure this is your top, because you have these empty holes here. We're going to work on this last. So with your needle coming out of this QuadraTile bead, you're going to pick up one 15-0, a 3mm bicone, and a 15-0. You're going to go through this next tile bead directly across where that empty hole is, like that, and pull. Turn your work. Again, you're going to pick up a 15-0, a 3mm crystal, and a 15-0. Exiting this tile bead here, going in through this next empty hole, like that. Pull. So you're going to do that 2 more times, and I'll meet you back. All right, I'm coming out of the last tile bead here. I've got my 15-0 crystal and 15-0 going in through that last tile bead. And we have all of our crystals on. So from here, we need to reinforce all of those beads. So coming out of your tile bead, you're going to go back through the 15-0 crystal 15-0, and tile bead. I'm going to do that again. 15-0, tile 15-0, crystal 15-0, and tile bead. Like that. Do that 2 more times, and I'll meet you back for the final step. Okay, going through that last set, everything's reinforced. So now it's time to wrap it up. We're coming out of this tile bead here. We're going to advance through this 15-0, crystal 15-0. We're going to tie a half hitch knot. To do that, you bring your needle under this thread bridge right here, like that, until you see a small loop. Now bring your needle through that loop, pull your thread so that your knot is against your work. Advance your needle again through a few more beads, like that. Tie another half hitch knot right here. And then advance your needle through a few more beads, like that. Just don't get it tangled. That's what you have. And now we're going to clip that thread off. That's what you have. So that completes this tutorial. Isn't that a beautiful earring? So here's the matching set. That's what we completed today. I did want to mention, when you're doing projects, when you're using fireline, because that can be pricey to buy, if you have any spare thread left over, if it's long enough, don't toss it. You can always reuse that on another project that you might just need a little more to finish. So save your scrap thread, and I usually keep mine in a little plastic container like this. Just toss my leftovers in there, and you might be able to use it on another project, so just save you a few pennies there. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, and share with all your family and friends. I also have a website where I sell my jewelry, and you'll see this and a couple of other colors posted for sale if you're interested in buying one. I also will list the materials needed for today's project. If you click more on the introduction to this video, it'll open up a description box, and that'll give you detailed information on what you need for today's project. So again, I'd like to thank you for joining me. It's been fun, so go off and make your own pair or go shopping on my website. Anyway, I hope you have a wonderful week, and happy beading.